Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Copyright disclaimer. This content does not belong to Bible Chronicles or claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles did not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material in use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes, and thus Bible Chronicles believes that this principal material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law.
Del mar los vieron llegar, mis hermanos emplumados serán los hombres barbados de la profecía esperada. Se oyó la voz del monarca de que el Dios había llegado y les abrimos la puerta. Por temor a lo ignorado, iban montados en bestias, como demonios del mal, iban con fuego en las manos y cubiertos de metal. Solo el valor de unos cuantos les opuso resistencia, y al mirar correr la sangre se llenaron de vergüenza, porque los dioses ni comen ni gozan con lo robado. Y cuando nos dimos cuenta, ya todo estaba acabado, y en ese error entregamos la grandeza del pasado, y en ese error nos quedamos 300 años esclavos. Se nos quedó el maleficio de brindar al extranjero nuestra fe, nuestra cultura, nuestro pan, nuestro dinero, y le seguimos cambiando oro por cuentas de vidrio, y damos nuestras riquezas por sus espejos con brillo. Siglo XX nos siguen llegando rubios y les abrimos la casa y los llamamos amigos, pero si llega cansado un indio de andar la sierra, lo humillamos y lo vemos como extraño por en su tierra. Tú, hipócrita que te muestras humilde ante el extranjero, pero te vuelves soberbio con tus hermanos del pueblo. Oh, maldición de Malinche, enfermedad del presente, ¿cuándo dejarás mi tierra? ¿Cuándo harás libre a mi gente?
El autor viene a decirnos con mucha firmeza y gran convencimiento lo mismo que nos decía en el siglo XVIII el barón de Holbach, ¿no? Un filósofo francés de origen alemán. Si nos remontamos al comienzo, entonces hallaremos que la ignorancia y el temor crearon a los dioses. La fantasía, el entusiasmo o el engaño los adornaron o desfiguraron. La debilidad les rinde culto, la credulidad los conserva, la costumbre los respeta y la tiranía los apoya para que la ceguera de los hombres sirva a sus propios intereses.
Feeling fam. All right, man. I love that intro, family. I love that intro, family. Hold up a second. Let me see if I could get this going. See if it's on yet. It's not. Oh, there it goes. Shalom, shalom, fam, shalom. Told y'all that this time I would actually put up the camera. Hopefully, you guys still remember that I am human, that I'm a live individual. You know what I mean? I'm not a computer. Nor am I an agent, which is what some people call me. Apparently, they don't believe that us so-called beaners, spicks, and wetbags can have even a decency of one small brain. So for them, it seems kind of impressive that I even know how to read, I guess. So their only option would be to say I am on the other side of your team. So anyhow, listen, fam. Here, let me put this on real quick, and then I'll go back to the camera regular. All right, so I'm gonna do something different today, and more likely, I'm going to continue doing classes that way. All right, as you know, you can tell by me, maybe if you've been watching this channel for some time, because it's our channel, not just mine. I always try to improve. I know, and everything I can, I try to better myself, whether it's work, class, whatever it is, even myself, obviously in the spiritual walk. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation, because I think it's going to allow you to see what I see, because I'm already doing the time of taking notes and all that stuff, right? So, and I've never done PowerPoint, so I seen my wife do it, and then I just said, you know what, let me try it out. And I realized that because of so much of this practice that I have, and I was already doing Word, PowerPoint is actually faster for me. It allows me to put my classes together in a quicker manner. So today I'm going to do one like this, and hopefully based on my responses from you guys, if you think that, what, I like that, it's clean, it makes more sense, please let me know. I would love that if you guys share that, because then again, I'm only available. I'm only able to grow if I'm also able to show. And I'm only able to show if I'm also able to apply. You got what I'm saying? So if I'm talking about order, discipline, bettering yourself and all that, and you don't see our channel grow, my teachings improve, or my presentations develop, then obviously there's something going on. So as you know, in this walk, there's either progression or regression. There's no in the middle. There's no such thing as being idle. If you're idle, that means you're falling. It's that simple. And in this walk is the same. So with that being said, as you guys know, the title, I technically had an awkward title. I couldn't really name it because obviously it's more than just what I'm showing. So, obviously you guys see the thumbnail. It says ZWARTE PIET. Have you guys probably heard of it? Now, I heard of ZWARTE PIET in 2019 through the camp I used to go to. But the way that I learned about him was not what I learned about him now. It's nice when you paint the picture and you assume. You assume. And again, the biggest lie that the enemy could have caused was to create a history that reflects the Bible, which then can be used as a prophetic book, when in reality, they planned this along. And I'm going to show you how, fam. And it's not like they twisted the Bible. No, the history aligning itself. That's why the Most High said through his son, listen, sorry, my bad. In Revelation, I think it was John, Revelation, I can't remember. It says that all of those things will be revealed, right? So anyhow, it's called St. Nicholas and ZWARTE PIET. Now, our understanding of this, at least for me, before I found out, I had a great conversation with a sister. Hey, shalom, Elisheva. Matter of fact, she's here. Oh, shalom, Rick, and whoever else, okay? So I appreciate what she shared with me. We were just, we share information. And I know about ZWARTE PIET, but what I know of him was not what she shared with me. So my understanding of ZWARTE PIET was, he came with St. Nicholas, and that ZWARTE PIET was his actual slave, like black slave, right? And he would go around and kidnap kids and beat them up and stuff like that. So in this camp, obviously they would say, oh, you see the white man, and he made a slave, and he's kidnapped, make the black man look bad, blah, blah, blah. So obviously the connotation to this topic, oh, it's racist. It's racist. That's what they say. Now, as you guys know me, I don't give a rat's ass who you are. You're going to get it once I know that whatever your history is and it's attached to us, guess what? I'm going to put it in your face, because then there's no way to answer facts with what's it called? Alternative facts. You can create them, but what we see is what we see. And what we keep seeing seems to be true. So again, that old saying, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it floats and swims like a duck and probably smells like one, then it probably is a duck. You're going to find out today several things, okay? So let's begin, all right? And I hope you guys are now, when I'm getting into this PowerPoint, I'm going to use most of it, and then I'm going to use some links. I'm going to fly back and forth, but again, it's going to be most of it. So I'm going to get off camera right now, all right? I'm going to leave this on open, and let's begin, all right? So now, what I did was, as you can see, hopefully you guys can appreciate this, all right? So technically, we're going to look into what's called the Dutch origin. Now, you know me, family. You know me. Hold on. Let me at least do this in the meantime, because I think you guys can read. You know that what I'm trying to do is clean up my act, because I do want to show, and I go fast, and I look for books, and it takes so much time. I want it to be clean. So what I like to do is give you history before we just go and, piss on the thing. Let's batter it up a bit. So let's find out about this Dutch origin. Who are these people? All right. So now we're going to click on Wikipedia. It's not 100% me, like I support this, no, but for the most part, it's a general theology. All right. You can see that here, the general theology, but it's general theology. Let's see. Let me open this up. Now here it goes right here. All right. So now there was such a thing as Black Dutch. Hold on. Let me see if I can magnify this. Yeah, there was such a thing as Black Dutch. Okay. So as you guys can read, matter of fact, here, let me do this. I'll magnify it even more. I'll be the little guy. So I'll read just a little bit so we can understand, all right? So follow me. It says, Black Dutch is a term with several different meanings in the United States dialect and slang. It generally refers to racial, ethnic, or cultural roots. Its meaning varies and such difference as contingent upon the time and place. Several varied groups of multiracial people have sometimes been referred to as or identified as Black Dutch, most often as reference to their ancestors. Okay? Now it says the term Black Dutch appears to have become widely adopted in the Southern Highlands and as far as West Texas in early 1800s by certain Southeastern families of mixed race ancestry, especially those of Native American descent. Okay? Just keep reading with me. When used in the South, it usually did not imply African admixture, although some families who used the term were of triracial descent. So they say. Okay? Now, in addition, some mixed race persons of European and African descent identify as Portuguese and Native Americans. You guys can continue reading this here. Pretty simple. Take a snapshot of it if you want. But I'm going to continue down a little bit. Now it says here, the term Dutch for people of German descent are also acquired a wider meaning. In those days, Dutch or Deutsch were the words of the Germanic language spoken in what we know now as Netherlands and Germany. Germans with ZWARTE, that word's going to come up again, or darker complexion were called Black Dutch. So now, Shalom, Esmeralda. So now, if we have a understanding of Black Dutch or dark complexion of a Dutch person, now we're wondering, wait a minute, we never knew in American academic that there was such a thing as Black Dutch. I mean, for God's sakes, all I knew about Dutch and Netherlands was I'm sorry, no offense to you people, but you guys are super, super white. So to me, this was very surprising, right? And I know for the most part, and Alicia, I do want to share this, that I didn't know about dark people of Dutch origin, but I didn't know the ZWARTE story. So I'm so happy that you brought that to my attention. I appreciate that. I'll praise the Most High for that one. All right, so hold on a second. Here you go. Yeah, there you go for that one, man. That's for that. So now it says here, the term was adopted by some people as an attempt to disguise Indian or infrequently triracial descent. So remember this. Let me read it again so you can clearly understand. There are strong indications that the original Black Dutch were swarthy complexioned Germans. Then it says, Anglo-American loosely applied the term to any dark complexion American of European descent. Hold on a second.
Bruh.
Wait a minute.
Right? European dark complexion descent. Okay, let's continue. The term was adopted by some people as an attempt to disguise Indian and infrequently triracial descent. So they would use the Indian blood, right? Or if they were mixed with Indian, it would go back to the European descent, Black Dutch, because you'll find out what it was to be an Indian, what really happened to you to you sisters, more than anything. Then it says, by mid-19th century, the term had become an American colloquialism. I cannot pronounce it yet. I will eventually by the end of the class. A derogative term for anything denoting one's small stature, dark coloring, working class status, political sentiment, or anyone of foreign extract. In contrast to the Anglo surname Melungians. Now, I've heard Melung. I don't know how do you say it, but I've heard of these guys. And there's a real deep, weird history about them. I don't have time to do a class on them, but I was intrigued about what I found. But anyhow, let's continue. Nearly 60% of American families reporting Black Dutch tradition. Watch this. Nearly 60% of American families reporting Black Dutch tradition bear surnames that are either decidedly German or possibly Americanized from Germanic origin. So you guys can see here, Native American passing for white. There's somehow a different Dutch element that we weren't aware of. Okay? A different Dutch element. So let's continue. Now that we are at least getting an idea that Dutch wasn't always so-called white folks. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought. Let me see if I can continue. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. If you ever have a chance, there's an app called Webster's Dictionary 1828. I've had it for years. Now, it was brought to my attention again because a brother pointed out a word in there, and I was like, oh, man, that's great. I had that app, but I was looking at that app for other reasons. One day, I looked up the word ZWARTE. So then, all of a sudden, I found this, okay? And I had showed this in one of my other classes, but it wasn't connecting just yet because, again, we weren't here. We weren't connected with the info just yet. So now, the definition of ZWARTE in that time, in 1828, I want you to pay attention. It says, being of a dark hue or dusky complexion, tawny. In warm climates, the complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. Then it says, the Moors, Spaniards, and Italians are more swarthy than the French, Germans, and English. So it says that Moors, Spaniards, and Italians are super darker than the French, Germans, and English. Their swarthy hosts would darken all airplanes. Now, you guys can look up American Dictionary of English Language, Webster's 1825. All right? Proof. I'm using legitimate sources, family. Let's continue. Now, ZWARTE Pete, this guy and St. Nicholas. All right? So what I'm going to do here, let me get out of this. Let me see if I could, hold on. I'm going to open it up again. My bad. I shouldn't have done that. I'm new to the presentation. My bad. Let me go here, and I'm going to open up this page. So I want to read about first, let's see, copy. Let's continue. All right. So now let's continue in this here. So we're here in ZWARTE Pete and St. Nicholas, okay? Now, on the bottom, I put Spain, Dutch, and Aruba knows about the origins of this tale. And that's why I'm glad you're here, Elishaba, because Elishaba is from Aruba. And once I share this, she's going to confirm as we keep moving forward, hopefully, if you have time, sis, that this story actually was part of Spain. I mean, part of Aruba. And it was a very awkward thing to say to us without knowing why it was said to us. It was really weird. I'm sure, Elishaba, you probably were like, why? When you were growing up, why? Why are they telling me this? Like, why would it be fearful? Now we know why. Now we can connect the dots. Because it's, listen, family, and I said this particular celebration that they have, now some people take it racist because obviously they have a different understanding of it. But you're going to find out that ZWARTE Pete was never in reality an African at all. He was interpreting somebody of African descent. Some people that will be known as Moors. And as we look further, we're going to find out why. And there's a lot of connection to Dutch and ZWARTE Pete and all of this thing and King James and all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, I'm really happy because I just love the connections. I love what the Most High does for you. And he opens the book and says, here you go. Bam. What has been closed is opening finally to the Hebrews of the Bible. The real ones, at least, Lord willing. So let's continue. It says here, let's read some facts. All right. Crazy facts about this Sinterklaas Day, the insane Dutch Christmas, okay? So people understand this as being a celebration in December 5th. And, you know, like I shared with you guys before, so, you know, Santa Claus or Santa Claus comes and blah, 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 and all this and that, right? So there's a lot of ideas of this theory, of this celebration. One of them is Sinterklaas, the castrated rooster. I'm not going to get into it, but he's like, they're celebrating Sinterklaas, but he's not Santa Claus. He just dressed just like Santa Claus. He's just skinny. The other one is Black Pete, Sinterklaas, African slave. That's what I was taught, because prior to being in there, I never knew anything about this guy, let alone the history. Sinterklaas' original assistant was Satan. That's another one, right? So that's what I guess they're coming up with, just to find an excuse to not admit what they really want to say. Because as you know, this particular type of people, this nation, right? The ones that don't really get a lot of sun, they're not very sincere about things. And they almost like they feel guilty to admit that those people are part of it, because then it makes them look bad, like they were enslaved too. And I don't think they ever want to be in that position ever again, fam. That's why it's going to end, because they'll do everything not to be at that position ever again. I'm going to tell you that right now. Now, here's another one. Santa Claus, watch this. This is the one. No, actually, no, I lie. Santa Claus lives in Spain. Supposedly, that's where the boat was coming from. That's the story, right? Now, you can believe it. Yeah, whatever. Parents leave Black Pete's bottle of beer. That's another one. But this one's the one that I wanted to read to you guys. Black Pete beats children up in a burlap sack. Now, sis, I remember when we had that chat, and I don't really go about dreams, but one of the weirdest things was I had dreams about me being kidnapped in these things here several times. And then the dreams were where people were walking over me and I could see them on top of me, but I couldn't do anything. I could just see them. I'm looking up underneath and I could see them, like their feet, their souls walking over me, but they were paying no attention to me. Now, I remember in these dreams that I was kidnapped as a kid while we were playing Guide and Go Seek in these dreams. So now let me read this to you guys. This is very interesting, fam. You see, we never knew this. And now I know why they celebrate this. Here's the point. It says, not every child gets presents on Santa Claus Day. If children have been bad, parents will leave the kids little notes for Santa Claus warning them that they need to clean up their act. Or else, come December 5th, if that child doesn't start acting right, he'll get something a lot worse than a lump of coal. Bam! When climbing into kids' homes, the Black Petes. Now, Alicia, I think you remember you said something about the vision. I don't know. It was weird, right? This reminded me of what you said. The Black Petes, burlap sacks, and brooms handle. So let me tell you, when climbing into kids' homes, the Black Petes, many of these little things, right? Many of these little minions bring up burlap sacks and broom handles. Their job, meaning it's more than one, is to track down any misbehaving children, throw them in the sack, beat them with the broom handle, and then drag them off to Spain, man. Now that's right there. Now listen, fam. I know it might not seem like a big deal to you, but why in the world would they say drag them off to Spain? What happens there? No one knows for sure, but the children never return. Of course, parents never actually have their children beaten and shipped to Spain, but they can still leave kids with bad presents. If a child misbehaves, the parent can leave the room, blah, 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 blah. Now, look, in Aruba, that's exactly what our sister grew up with. Technically, es Sira. En Navidad, si no te portas bien, va a venir ZWARTE Pete y te va a llevar, te va a robar y llevarte a España. Now, when you look up this tradition, it is only practiced in Dutch, Netherlands, I think some areas, and in Aruba. Well, guess why it's in Aruba? Would you like to share with them why it's in Aruba, Elishama? What does Dutch have to do with Aruba? If you can maybe add a little bit of that. You would think, like, why is Aruba there? You know, why? How does it deal with Dutch Aruba with Aruba? Very simple, fam. Because that's technically their so-called manifest destiny designation. There you go. Yes, we are colonized by the Dutch. That's exactly why. So now, when the Dutch, remember, keep in mind that the ZWARTE, the name ZWARTE, okay? So if the Dutch are afraid, so if these people are afraid of the Spaniards or their kids going back to Spain, these are white people. And we read that Spain or Spaniards were dark skinned. So who were these guys? You see, the tale is, family, is that when we continue with these classes, and you're going to find out, the tale is that this is part of a tradition. So let's listen in. Look, you'll see. Let's go.
Every year, during the first week of December, the Dutch celebrate their own unique version of Christmas, who many know as Santa Claus, the Dutch call Sinterklaas. Where Santa comes from the North Pole on a flying sled, his Dutch counterpart arrives from Spain in a steamboat. And instead of having a squad of elven helpers or reindeer commonly associated with Santa, Sinterklaas receives his help from ZWARTE Pete. Unsurprisingly, ZWARTE Pete, or the English translation alternative, Black Pete, is a pretty controversial figure to those unfamiliar with Dutch traditions.
Why are you blacked up? It just looks like racism.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think it's a colonial hangover. We're scared of your tradition. I'm speechless at this point.
It's offensive to us with our culture being the way it is.
I can't really get past that they are painted black.
I know I'm not visiting Holland.
Yeah.
This has got to be made right.
But you ask the Dutch about Black Pete and you get very different answers.
Niet alles op discriminatie gooien en zo, want er zijn ook goede, leuke dingen.
Het is gewoon prachtig voor de kinderen. Dat hoort erbij.
So, where did this controversial Christmas character come from? Well, the story of Black Pete begins in 1850, when he first appeared in the Dutch book St. Nicholas and His Servant, as a sort of Sinterklaas manservant sidekick. Somewhat like how Santa uses coal, Sinterklaas had Black Pete. But in this case, if a kid was naughty, he'd stuff you in a sack, hit you with a switch, and then ship you off to Spain. Seriously. But over the years, Pete's role changed from being the guy in charge of discipline to being the guy in charge of entertainment. Possibly because the idea of having a blackface helper stuff kids in a sack wasn't exactly family-friendly. This led to the more politically correct explanation that Black Pete's face was not naturally black, but instead dirty from chimney soot, since he was going up and down chimneys to deliver presents. But more than 150 years later, a growing number of Dutch citizens appear to have had enough and have begun picketing Sinterklaas festivals. A United Nations panel challenged the Dutch government to reconsider the custom in 2013. But this year, a lower court decision that would have allowed festivals, including Black Pete, be put up for review for negative stereotypes was overturned by the Netherlands' highest court. Theories for why the Dutch don't want to give up on the tradition of Black Pete range from cognitive dissonance, where the brain filters out information it'd rather not know, to ignorance on how big of a role the Netherlands played in the 17th and 18th century slave trade. The most prominent supporters of Black Pete are members of the far-right anti-immigrant Dutch Party for Freedom, who this November proposed a law that would protect Black Pete's identity, while of course dressed up as Black Pete. But changes are slowly being made to the Sinterklaas helper nonetheless. A white Pete appeared in this year's annual Sinterklaas Journal, and some Petes are using ash on their faces to more accurately represent chimney soot. But for now, it seems those for and against the Dutch tradition of donning blackface to represent ZWARTE Pete will continue butting heads for years to come. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, multiple sources, a broader view.
So as you can see, family, this is such a offensive thing for them, okay? And I like what they said at the end because they're confirming what I shared with you. It says seriously that if you're a bad kid, they'll take you back to Spain, okay? So obviously that's why, and again, there are, and we know this now here in America, they tend to protect the, they don't want to admit that the white man was enslaved. Unfortunately, that's the facts. The white man was enslaved by the black man, and they don't want to admit it. So in everything that you relate to history that could have been that way, that's why they just say, well, we need it, because it's a reminder to them that that was happening to them. Because remember, we know history, and we're going to touch on it. For now, I'm going to share with you. Let's see what this says. Let me see. Protect Black Pete's identity is 100 correct, and I can see the agenda. Because look, this is the word that she said, the cognitive dissonance, right? And this is what's going on with them right now. Yeah, that's right. This is what's going on with you, with this particular tribe. This is what's going on. The field of psychology, cognitive dissonance, is the perception of contrary information and mental toll of it, meaning relevant items of information include a person's clothing, feeling, ideas, belief, values, and things in the environment. So cognitive dissonance means it's typically experienced as psychological stress when persons participate in an action that goes against one or more of those things. According to this theory, when two actions or ideas are not psychologically consistent with each other, people do all in their power to change them until they become consistent. You see what I'm saying? So what does that mean? And you know what, sis? You actually said it. That is the agenda. It is becoming consistent now. They are consistently wanting to deny that they had anything to do with the slavery. And then if they do, they say it in such a way where, oh, it's just African-American pride. What? You mean the Buffalo Soldiers? That's pride? Are you serious? Destroying our brothers and sisters? You're proud of that. Oh, well, at every war, we were with the white man. We built this country. You know what? If you were with him at every war, that means you were with him at every war with him against us. Those are facts. So what I want to do, I want to give you credit. I'm going to give you what credit is due. But you see, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to have empathy for BS, because I know now the facts. There was a time where I doubted it too. So now let's read about this. What does this word mean? So I'm going to tell you guys, because they also say, oh no, he was a slave. No. He was not a slave, family. This word is a Dutch word. Nature. You saw that in the name of the book, right? That's the name of the book. What's his name? Nicolas Singh-Claus or something like that. Anyways, his assistant, Ketch or Netch, is called servant. He's a servant. There's a difference between a servant and a slave. A servant and a slave. A slave is a slave. A servant is different. Just like indentured servitude or perpetual slavery. They're different. They're not one and the same. Sinterklaas. There you go. Thank you, sis. So now let's continue. So we get, now, let me put it up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here it goes right there. See right there. You see that? St. Nicholas and Zing Nicked. I don't know how you say it, but that's him, right? His servant. St. Nicholas and servant. Okay? That's what it means. Not slave. And remember, that was a story, but it wasn't a real necessarily story like that, but it was a real story. And we're going to see it right here. Now, before we go further, I want to share this with you guys. Something that was brought to my attention a long time ago, and I just kind of saved it. I looked for it again, and I found it. Benjamin Franklin, in a book called Observation Concerning the Increase of Mankind and all these other parts of it, right? He numbers like 24 topics. And in the 24th topic, he mentions this. In that one, and I'm going to read it to you, okay? So let me magnify it, and I'm going to read it, and watch what it says. Which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, Swedes. Swedes? You mean Swarts? You mean Dutch? Are generally of what we call Zwarte complexion, as are the Germans, which they also do share the language, a bit of a dialect, but not that different. And Saxons only, with the English make the principal body of white people in the face of the earth. So see, the Swedes, complexion, as are the Germans also. Then it says the Saxons only accept it in English, or wait, basically to make the principal people of the earth to be so-called white. I could wish their numbers were increased. I could see that, why not? I would feel the same way. Well, we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants in Mars or Venus. As you can see, that's masonry. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, masonry again, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa, Wabos, if you use this source and then you run from it? You use it and then you run from it, the fact that you are from Africa. Make up your minds. By planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red. Now, some people say white and red means the white folks. Some people say them and us. But perhaps I'm impartial to the complexion of my country, for such kind partiality is natural to mankind, which basically says, well, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to favor my people because it's just common sense that people favor their people. But listen to the statement. These Dutch, this is, remember, Benjamin Franklin. You guys don't forget who this guy is. Okay? So now I'm going to show you this real quick. Let's move on. So now I wanted to bring this up because all of a sudden the Dutch bring up their apology. They're apologizing, which to me it's very it's stupid. But society has created such a big I should say this, a particular people that we're finding out that loves to go to Walmarts and McDonald's and CVS's and Amazon warehouses and just take shit. Excuse my language. Take stuff. You know, like there's an agenda being pushed by them. Trust and believe. So now these guys, listen to very clearly how they're speaking. And the girl on the right, at one moment pauses. I'm not going to pause the video. Just pay attention, fam. Pay attention to what they're saying. And I'm going to continue pushing through. Let's go.
Prime Minister Mark Rutte has apologized for the role that the Netherlands had in slavery. Mr. Rutte also said that slavery must be recognized in the clearest terms as a crime against humanity. He said slavery caused, as he put it, untold suffering for untold numbers of people, which continued in the lives of people today. Well, our correspondent Anna Holligan joins us from The Hague. And Anna, we saw in the last hour that apology being made, but obviously not without controversy.
Not without controversy indeed, but actually Mark Rutte went much further than many people had expected with this. He said the silence had gone on for too long and acknowledged that until recently, he didn't think there was any need to apologise for this slavery legacy. And what we heard today from him speaking inside the National Archive, surrounded by this history, which he said you can't argue with the facts, he said it was a painful, ugly and downright embarrassing time. This slavery system amounted to a crime against humanity. And he went into some of the numbers as well, which really give you an indication of just how horrific this was. So he talked about between 1814 up until slavery was abolished he said by 1814, more than 600,000 enslaved Africans had been shipped in deplorable conditions, wrenched from their families by Dutch slave traders. He also mentioned in Asia, between 660,000 and over 1 million people were traded by the Dutch East India Company. And all of this, of course, was mandated by the Dutch government, which is why Mark Rutte has taken these steps to apologise today. But you mentioned the controversy. A lot of people in the affected communities, the descendants of the enslaved, had asked for him to apologise on the 1st of July 2023, which will mark the 160th anniversary of the Dutch Emancipation Act.
Yeah, and yet here we are in December, so that's one thing that's upset people. The other question around all of this is reparation. Any kind of mention of that or decisions around that?
Actually, no, and that's something that may come in the days ahead. He did talk about the issue about the day, the chaos and confusion. He has been accused of ignoring those voices with echoes of colonialism. He said actually he wanted to get this done this year, so next year everyone could focus on the commemorations. He also mentioned, interestingly, that the Dutch king, Willem-Alexander, will be present at the commemorations, Ketty Kotti it's called, the release of chains on the 1st of July 2023. And that may be the moment that the king will also apologise. And of course, all of this is happening and may lead to other European countries taking similar steps. It may encourage others to consider their colonial legacies, because these words from Mark Rutte are really quite striking, given the polarisation we see in Dutch society today, and also just the fact that so many people here were still against this apology being issued, almost half of the Dutch population. The other thing that Mark Rutte mentioned that's quite notable is he said the centuries of oppression and exploitation still have an effect today in racist stereotypes, patterns of exclusion and social inequality. And he said to break those patterns, we have to face up to the past openly and honestly. And I think that will be the
Prime Minister Mark Rutte.
Now, family, I wanted you to listen to the whole video. Did you guys notice one thing that was, or people that were never mentioned? I heard slave trade. I heard ships. I heard black people. Oh, I heard Asians too. People in India. But none of you guys. Look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you. You can combine all the losses of the American wars, all the losses of the so-called African Americans, all the losses of those wars, okay? Combined them, and they will never amount to the amount of people that died in the American Holocaust by the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Brits. And Virginia Dutch Company, the nerve of them to just walk over. I mean, first of all, look, I'm going to give you a message to you so-called white folks if you're watching this channel. I don't think you do. Stop keeping your mouth shut, man. Bring the truth out. It's okay if you were conquered. You see, that's why I love the scriptures, family, and we're going to read some scriptures. I'm just trying to get through this because kingdoms come and kingdoms go. But Israel is an everlasting salvation. Israel is an everlasting salvation. So it doesn't matter whether the status of above, whether we are on the bottom, it's okay. We're in everlasting salvation. Let me let my camera charge real bit. So now, the reason I'm bringing this up also, in regards to the Dutch and why it's important to know, because watch this. This whole entire time they're apologizing, sympathy, Africa, Africa. Okay, fine. But the Virginia Dutch Company had something to do with the Americas here. So now, the Virginia Dutch Company, who was the CEO of the Virginia Dutch Company? Now, at that time, they didn't call them CEOs. But let's find out who this guy was. All right, you guys are going to be pretty impressed or surprised. Let's read this, okay? This is from a link. It's pretty easy to read. Coats of Arms of the Virginia Company. Let me go ahead and magnify this. And look what he reads. It says, the Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company chartered by King James. Whoa, what? Hold on. Gotcha, bitch. Oh, let me do that again. Gotcha, bitch. King James. Hold on a second. Let me read it again. The Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company chartered by King James I in 1606. Remember, family, who were the ZWARTE people? What did Benjamin Franklin say? Yeah, let's get going. Let's keep going. And what are these BHI saying about King James? That he's a Hebrew, right? Because he's black. Okay. All right. So now wait, hold on a second there, Mr. One Westerners. You're telling me King James, who authorized the translation of the Bible, also had a joint stock company for Virginia Company of London, who had a lot to do with slave ships? Let's continue. In 1606, to establish a colony in North America. Such a venture allowed the crown to reap the benefits of colonialization. Swallow that pill, One West. Leverage against the Spanish without bearing cost. Investors, meanwhile, were protected from catastrophic losses in the event of the project failure. The company established a settlement in Jamestown in 1607. Over the next 18 years, the Crown granted the company 2 new charters, democratizing its governance and reforming its financial model. That began as an enterprise of investors seeking dividends, such, he's talking about money, right? But as you can see, let me read this. By 1618, the company had found a way to use its most abundant resource, land, to attempt settlers to pay their own passage from England to the colony, which is what's called headright program. I'm not going to talk about it in this class. I'll bring it up later. I've done it before. After revival, to pay the company a quit rent or fee to use the land. Still the Virginia Company and the colony, it oversaw struggle to survive. You guys can see, watch this, disease, mismanagement, Indian attacks, and factionalism in London all took toll until 1623. So we know now that King James had a joint stock company with Virginia Company, right? Okay, let's continue. Now, one thing I want to show you, King James, and I did a class by this before, so I want to make sure that you guys understand who this guy is. See, everybody thinks that this guy is a so-called Hebrew Israelite. Okay? Now, I have a book here, and I bought it by curiosity, so-called Lee Cummings. So Lee Cummings, he's a FOPI writer and all them fools, right? If you read his book, it's just all over the place. But I like that. You know, it says here, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, right? You that are wise, understand, discern information. And don't go and say, oh, the majority. Oh, anyways, this guy's well abstracted and he wants to bring the Bible. Very silly, but I don't care about it. So this is so-called King James. All right, as you can see, right? That's the one that they say, look, he's King James, he's black, he's black, it's my people. Okay, cool, sounds good. I want to point something out before I get to other places. You see this? That's a cross. Okay, I just want to point that out. You see this here? That's a cross. I just want to point that out. Now, you see this here? That's a sphere. And that's not of the Bible. Now, I want to point this out. It says here, James, by the grace of God, King of England, land France and Ireland. Here's the thing that I'm looking for. There we go.
Bruh.
Watch this.
Who are you?
Gotcha, bitch. We got you. Now check this out. Red seal of King James VI, which is his son. And he has the seal right there. You see the horse and the person, right? If you have the book, you can actually see it better of the picture. But in this case, the horse is looking to my right, and there's a gentleman riding it with a sword in his hand. Okay? That is the seal of King James' family. This is an image of a black King James VI of Scotland with his 1611 translated book, Bible. Take a close look at the black hand that is flipping the pages of the original, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, he's talking about this right here. Look at the head, look at the black hand. It could be a glove, but who knows? Who cares? All right, whatever. All right, so now watch this. We're going to find out what this is. Let's find out what this is. When I started looking at that stuff, I'm like, I've seen it before. See, there it goes right there. Now, mind you, this guy has crosses on him. And I don't know why that doesn't matter to them. So this particular cross right there, right? Pay attention to, if you can see it, just pay attention to it. While you're looking through it, take a snapshot of it. If you can magnify it, that would be fantastic. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring out this particular material, and I showed you guys this before. Now, I'm not sure if anybody understood what I was sharing with y'all, but you have to be mindful of these facts. These crests have everything to do with family lineage, okay? So, for example, you know, like the standard, you know, flag, or like, you know, the tribe of Judah. So people, like sometimes you drive in people's homes and they have their last name in front of their home. It was very common to have these crests, okay? And a lot of these people that they claim to be so-called our people had these crests. But you see, these crests wasn't necessarily what we find. This is what we find. And this is from a book that I showed you guys before. It's called the Royal Book of Crest, Great Britain and Ireland, Dominion of Canada, India, and Australasia. Okay? What is it, sis? Put the screen. Let's see. Romano, put the screen of the picture where the cross of the head shows to make. Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. Let me get it. This one. Look at that cross. This is important material because they tend to miss this. That cross is like literally in their face. Remember, in Judith 5, it says that the Most High don't roll with us if we're not keeping the commandments. All Israel. Not some of us, all of us. After 70 AD, that's it. It's over. You can't, you as a tribe cannot individually, you can't run shop no more, man. We went in slavery together, we go into kingship together. You can't have one or the other. That's just a fact. Okay, so that's all bull. Anyways, so at least you see these crests, You see these lines? You see these horses? Okay, cool. In this book, this is what, hold on. Well, in this book, we find this interesting thing. So you see this here, right? The same crest that he has. So now watch this. In the same book that I showed you, we have this. They look alike, don't they? They look alike to me, right? They look alive to me. Now, why am I showing you this particular crest? Because there's a point behind it. So this is, they go by plates in this book. This is in plate, I believe, 131, number 11. Okay? It's two books. One has the names and the other one has the crest. Then it says here what the actual meaning means. So what this horse is, it's a Saracen on horseback, 133.11. You see, I'm not lying. 133.11, okay? Saracen on horseback. Here it is right here. You guys can get the book and it'll testify. I'm not lying to y'all. Here goes plate 133. Here's this guy here, a Saracen riding on a horse, which is the same emblem or Scotland, okay? Now, what does it mean? The Saracens on a horseback. Well, let's find out who the Saracens are. Because when you look up Saracens, they're very hard to find. But this is what you find about the Saracens. Watch this. Moors and Saracens in Europe. Hold up. Gotcha, bitch. Moors and Saracens in Europe, estimating the medieval North African male legacy in Southern Europe. You see, I found this because of so-called DNA. And I tend to look at these things and then I look at wars. So now we see that the emblem of who? King James I, who was chartered a stock joint of the Dutch company, who what? Was enslaving people. So if these guys were black, do you think they were enslaving black people? Gotcha, bitch. No, they weren't. They weren't enslaving black people. Okay? Not at all. I'm going to read it out loud in this so you guys can listen to this. To investigate the male genetic legacy of the Arab rule in Southern Europe during the medieval times, we focused on the specific Northwest African haplogroups and identified evolutionary close to STR-defined haplotype in Iberia, Sicily, and Italian peninsula. Our results point to a higher recent Northwest African contribution in Iberia and in Sicily in agreement with historical data. You see this, family? If you continue, it says Italian regions known to have experienced long-term Arab presence shows an enrichment of Northwest African types. Once again. I'm not sure who you are. You sound familiar, but you can say what you want. Facts are facts. Khazarian, Talmud, Judaism, Satan, we don't study that. So you're in the wrong channel. Let's see. So let's continue. So now we're getting to see what this crest was. Okay? This here we know now. This is a crest that matters to them. So you can tell that, or are you going to tell me that King James is not a North African Saracen? You can't tell me that. Now, I want to show you this. Partus sequitur ventrum. Partus sequitur ventrum, okay? I've showed you videos before. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to let this guy share it for us. And then I'm going to show you some links about it, okay? Watch this. Let's listen in.
A common characteristic for the first illustrious so-called African Americans to rise into prominence was a melanin deficient parent, in most cases, a father. This outcome was mostly a result of Virginia colonial slave statute, Partus sequitur ventrum. That which is brought forth follows the womb, meaning The legal status of a child born of an enslaved Indian woman will always remain enslaved. Indian woman will always remain enslaved. This law gave planters and free white men in general carte blanche authority to impregnate captured women.
Planters and free white men in general. So the planters were somebody else. Let's continue.
Without having to so much as even claim responsibility for their mixed race children. Just as common, these children were sold on the mulatto maid market as house niggas for an added sticker price as compared to their darker skinned counterparts. In this aspect, Virginia colonial law was totally contradictory to English common law, which states that a child's status follows the father. Of course, this law, extending from the earlier Virginia codes, was designed this way to assure legalized rape of indigenous women without consequence, and naturally the perpetuation of slavery through a duplicitous modification of English common law. Children born of a white mother and black father were considered free. Born of a white mother and black father were considered free and were counted among free people of color. White men were freely allowed to abandon or kill their children without recourse, solidifying their position as the first deadbeat dads in American history.
So obviously it's very convenient for him to say that. Give me a second. Of course he's going to make that last statement, which is typically an opinion, but then again, I'm not here to defend those guys. That's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? I'm just pointing to facts. So check this out. What does partus equitem ventrum mean? This is from Judicial Cases Concerning American Slavery and the Negro, Volume 1, 1926. Now, see, what we used to think was partus equitem ventrum applied only to so-called black people, meaning African Americans or Africans. Far from the truth. Far from the truth. Partus equitem ventrum. An Indian mulatto's suit for freedom, page 147. Enslaved from Pennsylvania, 284. Colonial acceptance, free mother, legal doctrine, proof of free birth, slave father, and apprenticeship, white mother. No mention of blacks there. I'm not sure what you're trying to say, Tyler. You're just regurgitating typical stuff that people always say, man. I mean, there's our slingers, bro. What the hell? Get your own channel if you really want to teach somebody. All right? So let's continue. In the same book, watch what it says. Remember, family, don't forget who the Dutch are, what the Dutch did, and the reason why we're even talking about the Dutch. Because the Dutch would celebrate in Christmas that Zwarte Piet would take their kids back to Spain if they don't conduct themselves. People in Aruba teach their children the same thing. Si no te portas bien, viene el español y te lleva a España. Kind of weird, isn't it? Let's read. That Indians were brought in and held in slavery for many years subsequent to 1682 is indicated by the evidence of witnesses and the assertion of counsel in cases brought from 90 to 150 years later, and by acts passed in the 18th century. Robin and others who brought action in 1772 to try their titles to freedom were descendants of Indian women brought into this country by traders. Right? Were descendants of Indian women brought into this country by traders at several times between the years of 1682 and 1748. Now, did you guys know this? No. Because all we knew was that slavery only happened to so-called Africans. Not at all. Mason counsel from the plaintiffs asserts that hundreds of descendants of Indians, hundreds, mostly women, if not all of them, brought in between 1682 and 1684, have obtained their freedom on the actions brought in this court. In the case at Henry, in June 1772, the court gave judgment against many descendants of Indians introduced and held as slaves between 1682 and 1705. That's 23 years. that many Indians were reduced to slavery between 1691 and 1705 is shown by Henning. Assertions that thousands of their descendants were deprived of their liberty when they sued for it later on. So as you can see, in the revisal of the law in 1705, an act concerning servants and slaves, the reenact chapter 1 of the Act of 1682 is substance, but omits the word Indian. You see that? Omits the word Indian and the special clause respecting Indian slaves, meaning you didn't include it. Let's continue. Same book. It says here, I'll start where it goes right here. Thus, we have shown that the first slaves, pay attention, that the first slaves in the colony of Virginia were Indians, not Negroes.
Come on, man. Not Negroes. Why do you guys keep lying to us?
That's just me being funny, fam. Seriously, though. Thus, we have shown that the first slaves in the colony of Virginia were Indians, not Negroes, and that the law of the colony sanctioned Indian slavery except as regards prospective importations by land for a few years after the passage of the Act of 1670. The practice of the colonists, meaning conquistadors, you black ones, you African ones, and you white ones too, but right now I'm talking about you Africans, because you guys are the invisible ones. You were the shadow the whole time, the right-hand man, and I'm going to show you how you were dependent to them the entire time. The practice of the colonists, in accordance to their laws, is illustrated by the cases of court in Virginia and Maryland from 1627 and 1831. Listen, almost 200, matter of fact, more than 4 years? In 1627, some Indians of the Carib Islands, well, check it out. Look, Aruba, were brought in the country by Captain Sampson, but the experience was too disastrous to warrant repetition, at least on a whole scale. Besides the traffic in Indian slaves between Virginia and Maryland, Maryland colonists mentioned above, the Maryland court records contain other instances of Indian slavery. Do you guys realize there's no mention of black people here? No, you'll see why. The Maryland court records contain other instances of Indian slavery. Paul Simpson Mariner in 1648 complained that Captain Edward Hill had not delivered unto him 2 Indian boys whom he had covenanted to deliver. See? You see this here? You keep reading. Now look, I'm going to show on the bottom right here. In Maryland, in 1656, there belonged to the household of one overseer, a Negro, an overseer, okay? A taskmaster, un sacapatas, a white woman servant, okay? And an Indian slave. Hold up. Now, I have to ask you. So you're telling me, you told us that you guys were on the bottom the entire time. But here we see that there's actually a category. Several of you people of woolly hair, dark skin, were our taskmasters. You had us under you. You had the white folks under you and we under them. The real people that went through the slavery, perpetual, was not you. Let's continue. And Tyler, again, I don't know what, I'm not trying to diss you, brother. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. Bloodline, all these started slavery. I'm not sure what he's saying. Are you agreeing with this? Are you disagreeing with it? Are you saying this is a lie? You're saying it's not true? Ah, yeah. There you go. There you go, brothers. Appreciate you, man. You see, we like honesty here. That's all we care about. I don't care who you are, what you look like. If you had something to do with slavery of my people, you're going to get it. Because I know people that look like me almost were doing it worse to us. But I know they're not our hinted. But anyhow, I appreciate what you said because it's true. I'm glad you say that because that's what's keeping the truth from being exactly. The truth is in the blood. It's prophetic that because of what they do, sedition will be their destruction. By sedition, through sedition. But let me continue. Now I understand. So thank you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Besides the traffic in Indian slaves between Virginia and Maryland. Hold on. Let me see where I left off. Okay, on the bottom. In 1661, one citizen of Maryland demands an Indian. Promise him in satisfaction of another Indian belonging to the I don't know, sold by order of the theft. Let's see. Did I miss something? Oh, okay. Hold on a second. The traffic between slaves and marriage to close against Indian slavery. 2 Indian boys that covered. Okay, we read that. Okay, cool. Let me continue. Okay, my bad. I lost train of thought. Here's another page. All right, this is on the bottom. Watch what it says. In the later history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent. Let me read it again. This is for you, my sister Elishaba, my sister, what's your name, sis? I forget your name. You're here, I think, still. Esmeralda, you, my lovely sisters. This was applied to you. So this is a generational curse, unfortunately. So you went through this more likely because you're back here and you're hearing this, and God is talking to you, saying, "You went through this. All those weird dreams you had, or those sentimientos that, why do I feel weird? Why do I feel different than others?" That's it. I'm not big on dreams. I don't put weight on them. I don't believe in prophecy on dreams, but I believe that each one minds to you only. And to me, this whole kidnapping and the type of sex and I would always have the dreams around Christmas. I'm just telling you, family, it's weird. Anyhow, it says, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent and as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. You guys seeing this, man? In the later history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. So who was the women that were going through slavery more than any other women? It wasn't Asian women. It wasn't African women. It wasn't white women. It was you lovely sisters of ours. That's why they want this 12-tribe chart in your face. That's why when you see this, look, I'll show you. This is interesting. I wasn't even thinking, this is a side point. The Most High probably wanted me to show you guys this. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to show you something real quick. Where are you? Hold on. Let me see if I have it. Give me a second. I think, is this one here? Hold on. No. Hold on. If I take too long, I'm not going to do this to you guys. But these camps, I'm not going to do it. You see these camps? They're always bashing on their black women. They're always bashing on them. Always. And to be quite frank, they are really the ones that are being the most promiscuous, them and so-called white women, body counts and all that. So that's your spirit. Go ahead. But see, our women don't roll that way, which is why they kidnapped you women, which is why you were so valuable to them, which is why I get sad and at the same time angry when I see so-called African-American women that kind of look like us, because I know that this happened to you. And that's why it's usually the woman, when it's a black woman or African-American woman, that says they were native because the mom, not because the dad. And usually the wobbles, they base it on the maternal, not the paternal. You'll hear it themselves, which is why our native sisters, you know damn well that our sisters, you would not leave your children. A very small portion of y'all will, but our sisters usually don't do that. There you go. Let me read that for you, sis. Let me get that for you. Hold on, let me get it. Hold up. I'll use the sword. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 15. Give me a second. If you guys have some scriptures that you want to share and it does connect with this, please, by all due, share it with me. All right, I'll read it for y'all. It says, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. Damn. You know what this is saying? Watch this. It says, watch. It says here, if a slave run away from their owners and comes to you for protection, do not send them back. Did you guys do that? Did they do that? No. I have many books of natives talking about African Americans who learned their ways and would hang out with them and act Indian. And then when it was time to make some money, they would actually turn on the Indian. They would dress up like us, feathers and all, and then bam, put them in slavery. Psh, wicked. Deuteronomy 24:7. Let me see what it reads this. It says, if any of you kidnap Israelites and make them your slaves or sell them into slavery, you are to be put to death. In this way, your nation will get rid of this evil. So as you can see, all praises is because you're going to see that those are the script. Well, not that exactly, but it's going to be a precept. So let me finish this. In the latter history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent as the ancestress of slaves petitioning for freedom. If you guys read Black Indians, it actually talks about that the Moors and Africans were going into Mexico and South America, kidnapping our sisters as well. Let's continue. For if she had been enslaved unlawfully, her descendants in the female line were free. You see that? In 1962, Parte Sequitur Ventrum was a law that was passed because of the 1961. It was a retribution act. It was a retaliation act because apparently our Native brothers and sisters supposedly killed a bunch of them. So they retaliated, passed an act the year before, and then the following year enslaved all our women and children. That was a law. If I have time, I'll bring the book, okay? And matter of fact, Alicia, remind me of the book. It's about the what I just mentioned, okay? Just remind me of it if you can too. It says here, now, for if she had been on, let me see, in accordance with the axiom of the civil law, partis sequitur ventrum, which was accepted generally, except in Maryland, for a few years, 1664, 1681. We're almost done, fam. So now here's one more book. This one here, to confirm what's going on. Because as you can see, the dates show that the native, our sisters were the ones going through slavery, perpetual, right? And you saw that the Negro was the overseer, then the white woman, then us, right? Okay. This is from Virginia, the Old Dominion. Page 88. It reads, the last of this month of August 1619, that marked the establishment of civil liberty and self-government, saw also the introduction of a new class of immigrant laborers. These were Negroes, listen, whose services, it now appears, were indentured, as in the case of whites from England and Europe. Previously, it had been generally accepted that they were sold to the colonists as slaves, while the bringing of them had been ascribed to the Dutch. You see my point, fam? Full circle now, right? Okay. Recent research, however, has cast a new light upon the transaction. According to the available records, these Negroes may not, hold on a second, let me magnify it. My bad, I apologize. Hold on, I don't like that. My bad, I did the work. My apologies. Okay. See you real quick. There it goes. It says here, recent research, however, has cast a new light upon the transaction. According to available records, these Negroes may not with certainty be called slaves, for there is no proof that their persons were called as property or on terms any different from those of white laborers whose services were engaged under public and private ownership from varying lengths of time. On the contrary, the evidence clearly points to the customary indenture. For Virginia, remember, Dutch were there, Black Dutch. Archive shows that throughout the second quarter of the 17th century, meaning late 1600s, like 1680, 1690, like we were reading, right? Negroes were being released. Let me say that again. Negroes were being released. Gotcha, bitch. At the end of their periods of indenture. Gradually, racial slavery grew out of this condition as the English settlers followed the examples of the Spaniards in West Indies. Hence, the first importation came, blah, blah, blah. You guys can read the book. So now we're seeing that they were not the initial slaves. Let me see this. Let me read this. But hermano, they will say with these texts that we natives enslaved people. The only record that they could, and they typically use it with the 1619 theoretical thing, the Trial of Tears. That's it. That's it. I don't know if those were, because there was a lot of mixing going on, but the very limited amount of natives had slaves comparable to the white and black folks. It doesn't even compare. Keep in mind, don't fall for that. That's more retaliation than anything. Because I don't see any history where natives were like adamant about fighting the wars with them. There's a lot of history that shows that a lot of people that you wouldn't expect fought in the Civil War. Now, let's go to Isaiah 5:26. I want to show you something, okay? It says, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far. So now I wanted to establish the Dutch, the beginnings, the ZWARTE PIET story, where it came from. It's not racist, family. Those people are just trying to remind themselves. Don't go back to slavery. And that's why we know now that in Aruba, they practiced it. No wonder, because they were in Aruba. And now we see that Dutch and Virginia have a lot in common. And then we find out that Partes Equitur Ventrum was all about against us. And you're going to find out who passed that law. Yeah, it was King James. King James, not the one that authorized the Bible translation, his son, I think his grandson. He authorized Partes Equitur Ventrum. That's what happened. That's why I wanted to show you the records so you can connect them yourself. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 26. It says, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and I will hiss them from the end of the earth. So see, the ensign, he will give us a sign of who these people would be. It says that they will be from afar, and he's going to go, psst, hey, come here, from the end of the earth. Watch this. And this ensign also is going to say kind of their character. And behold, they shall come with speed, swiftly. Keywords, family, swiftly. From afar, from the end of the earth. It'll be an ensign, okay? Don't forget. Let's continue. Now, I want to share this with y'all. In case you don't know this, and I have said before that the fall of Granada really has a lot of key and like clues. So I'm gonna show you something. In the war between the war for Granada started in 1482, and as you can see, it lasted almost 10 years. Okay, but in the 10th year, there was an 8-month siege. Now, this siege started in 1491. As you can see, you can read through it with me. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at the camera. I kind of remembered. And it lasted all the way through October, okay? The same year. 1491 lasted all the way through October. Now, through the Treaty of Granada, that means that they came to an agreement, kind of like if you guys seen the movie, the Conquerors of Jerusalem, or the two kings, they meet, and they're like, hey, man, we could either go to war, and we'll destroy you, or, that's it. So it's like, okay, man, we'll agree with you. So the Treaty of Granada was signed November 25th, 1491. Now I'm going to show you something. Granting them 2 months to the city and the African departure. So this is prior to 1492, okay? There's a relevance to this, fam. Watch this. Now, the same at the end of October, right? The same year as November, Granada gave in. Now, they were given 2 months, remember this. And then then they walked into Spain in January 2nd of 1492. So follow me on the dates. The year before, at the end of the year, okay? In November, in October it was done, and then they're given from November to January. Watch this. The dates correlate to something. Like I asked the question, do you see what I see? November 25th, December 25th, and January 2nd. Those are actual important dates because in November 26th was when they signed the treaty. They were given already time before, but they agreed finally on paper. Once they were done in October. So why do you think this says in the scriptures? That's why ZWARTE PIET and this relates. Revelation 11:10, and they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. And they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. Now, keep in mind, fam. Hold on, let me go this way. Sorry. What is celebrated in November 24th? Thanksgiving. What is celebrated in Christmas? And why is New Year's in the first month of December? Because it's a renewing of them. You see, who brought Thanksgiving to us? They did. Who brought Christmas to us? They did. Who brought January, New Year? They did. Now I'm going to show you something. You're going to be surprised. Which is why Revelation says, and they that dwelled upon the earth shall rejoice over them. Why? Because when they came around that time, and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. The gifts that they used to push through was us. Send each other gifts. Hey, I got a slave for you. Go. 50 slaves, most of them women. Go, man. You got to see the Bible for what it is. Look, I want to point this out. Because I'm going to touch on something. This is Portugal. This is Spain, Grenada. You see, Arago. But look how close Africa is. Right? You see, it says Musulman. Right? Right there. Okay. Now, let's get to a little closer. Now we see Grenada. And now look how close it is here. Ceuta, 1415. Tarifa, 1492. Tarifa means tariff. And I guess that's they call the city because when you port there, they charge you a tariff. Makes sense. But look how close they are to Africa. So now, let's touch on this. Remember, an ensign. Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. Remember the ensign? From far, right? From the end of the earth. Remember the ensign? From the end of the earth. Remember this word? As swift. Right? But now it gives you a little more of a hint, a clue. As swift as an eagle flieth. So not only will they come as an eagle, but they would have the sign of an eagle. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So now, let's go back here a little bit. We're going to touch on two things. If the Africans and Europeans were already at war with each other, they obviously knew their language, right? Common sense. Because if they ruled Europe, they spoke French, Russian. I've talked to this before. And look how close it is. But the clue says that a nation from far, that's not far, so-called African Americans. That's not far. From the end of the earth, that's not the end of the earth. As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And we know now from proof that the nations of Europe, white and black, had the eagle. Yeah, common sense. So the ensign would be that a nation from the end of the earth, far and swift. Oh, and then one more thing, they're going to have an eagle. So when you see an eagle, you should be mindful, and then they won't speak your language. Deuteronomy 28:45, and they shall be upon thee for a sign, for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Until when? Until our redeeming. So until our redeeming, we're going to see these ensigns. Okay, let's go. Isaiah 5:26. Now let's look at it again. And I will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar. He's going to warn them. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, my camera's dying often. Let me go ahead and go back to this. Hold up. I will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar, to them. But this ensign shall be for us too. And I will hiss unto them from the end of the earth, and behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. So who are these people? So we used to think that it was just one particular nation. Watch this. I'm going to read this to you guys, if in case you haven't, and I want to make sure that this sinks in finally now. Habakkuk 1:8. And Habakkuk 1:5 says, and I'm going to do something that is going to amaze you, and you're not going to believe it once you see it. Habakkuk 1:8, it says, their horses are swifter than the leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. They came like that. Their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar. Remember the ensign? Remember a sign forever? They'll come as leopards in their horses, and they will be fierce, their countenance, and they'll be with lots of horses, And that those horses will come from afar, and they shall fly as the eagle that hasted to eat, meaning hungry. And you know that they were starving. Watch this. You see the picture in the back? This is from a book called The Golden Age of the Moors by Ivan Sertima. There is a European scholar that quoted this, and he recorded it. This was recorded in 711 AD. Habakkuk prophesied this in 600 BC. And now we see it again in 2023. 1,300 years apart, each one. The reins of the Moorish horses were as fire, their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles. Their horses were swift as leopards and more fierce than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. The noble Visigoths, the white folks, were broken in an hour, quicker than tongue can tell, O luckless Spain, when Spain fell. Remember, their horses were swift as leopards and more fierce than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. Their horses are also as swifter than the leopards and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And they shall fly as the eagle. Who has the eagle, fam? That's right. Jeremiah 5:15. Lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far. O house of Israel, saith the Lord, it is a mighty nation. How quick did they fall over there? Within an hour. It is an ancient nation. This is a hint. A nation whose language thou knowest not. You see this? If these were the so-called Africans, it wouldn't apply to them, right? Exactly. You see, it wouldn't apply to them because it says, a nation whose language thou would not understand, neither understandeth what they say. But they were mixing among each other forever, for 800 years. Yeah. Lo, I bring a nation upon you from far. O house of Israel, saith the Lord, it is a mighty nation. It is an ancient nation. A nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understandeth what they say. Here's the hint, and here's your answer. Watch this. Deuteronomy 28:36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. So another hint is that you wouldn't know them, and neither would your parents. And there shalt thou serve other gods, and nor we would know their gods. Now, we saw King James with a cross, so they knew about Christianity, right? And King James is English, right? Exactly. Let's continue. Verse 64. The Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto another, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So it's talking about an ancient nation, like Jeremiah, an ancient nation that our fathers would not know. Now here it says that these people, we didn't know their language, but here's what it means by it, fam. Now let's round it off. Matter of fact, let me read this first, and then I'll show you. I think Judges should come up. Baruch 4:15. He says, "For he had brought a nation upon them from afar, a shameless nation of a strange language, who neither reverend old man nor pitied child." And we see this till this very day. We know who acts like this towards our people. We see it every day. Let's continue to my point. Here's why it says an ancient nation that knew your fathers have not known. Why? Watch this. Judges 3:1. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan. Remember, it says that neither you nor your fathers have known a weird language, people that are different than you. Watch this. Only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them more, at the least such as before knew nothing thereof. You see? Continue. Namely, 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hittites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon unto the entering of Hamath, that we would be dealing with them for generations, and that he would send an ancient nation, a very uncivilized nation. Now, if you guys remember this, family, and we know this in Latin America, that we understood that Spaniards love to mix. They love to mix their seed, right? We knew that, but usually the British didn't. I wonder why. Watch this, just to show you a point. This is from a book called The American. I'll get it before we finish. I want to read this out. This is the point that I want to make, okay? It says, an untold number of free people of African descent, black conquistadors, born in Africa or on the Iberian Peninsula, also accompanied Spanish conquistadors, such as Hernán Cortés and Ponce de León. By far, more Africans came with the Spanish and the Portuguese as slaves, servants with varying degrees of freedom, attendants, or armed adventurers. And you can see right here, several armed adventurers. Same book. Indeed, wherever Spain set its flag of conquest in the Americas, Africans helped hold the pendant.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Let me read it. These black conquistadors set an example for subsequent racial relations throughout the entire Spanish colonial experience, living their daily lives with degrees of complexity that rarely would be achieved by black men and women in early English settlements in the Caribbean and North Africa. Indeed, wherever Spain set its flag of conquest in the Americas, Africans helped hold a pennant. They participated in the exploration of the lands that would become modern-day Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, Venezuela, Peru, and Chile, as well as Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Men such as Juan Garrido, Esteban, John Rodriguez, Gaspar Llanga, to name a few. That's why the whole thing about ZWARTE PIET, that's why Alicia, that's what they would tell you. Si no te portas bien, te van a llevar el ZWARTE PIET. Porque estos blancos se llevaban a los negros, or Africans, however you want to say it, and as their helpers and slave our children and women. Those are facts. Those are not fairy tales. It's not a made-up story at all. I take my time with these classes, families, because I really care about my gente. I really care about you guys. And I know how much we have suffered. And even though we do, we still fight. We don't complain. We don't blame. We don't, I want reparations. No, we don't care. We just want our people to be happy, finally go back to our Father and get rid of these people. That's what we care about from the conversations I have. Let me read Baruch again. Baruch 4:9. Check this out. I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that our history in the Bible, our history is in the Bible. Even tales, they're in the Bible. That's why whenever you start reading the Bible and you connect the things that, like, oh my God, now I know why, you feel more proud. Watch this. Baruch 4:9. For when she saw the wrath of God coming upon you, she said, hearken, O ye that dwell about Zion. God had brought upon me great mourning. As you guys know, that Zion is it's like a woman, right? She's our mother, all right? Verse 10, for I saw the captivity of my sons and daughters, with which the everlasting brought upon them. With joy did I nourish them, but sent them away with weeping and mourning. Let no man rejoice over me, a widow and forsaken of many, who for the sins of my children I'm left desolate, because they departed from the laws of God. Verse 13, they knew not his statutes, nor walked in the ways of his commandments, nor trod in the path of discipline in his righteousness. let them that dwell about Zion come, and remember ye the captivity of my sons and daughters. For now Zion is pleading to the Most High, which the everlasting had brought upon them. So she's pleading for us, right? For he had brought a nation upon thee from far, a shameless nation, of a strange language, who neither reverend the old man nor pitied the child. That's why in Deuteronomy 28:50 it says, of fierce countenance. And we know what happened to our sisters and our children: fed to dogs, hung on hooks, lynched, burned, thrown overboard, raped, slaughtered, and it still continues. There's 90,000 children still missing that are so-called illegal. They don't give a damn about our people, fam. Who is voting in America? It ain't really us. It's white and black. Verse 16, these have carried away the dear beloved children of the widow, and left her that was alone, desolate, without daughters. So this history that you guys know about the Llorona, that's what it is. That's actually what it is, fam. You see, a lot of us change the folklore, but in reality, La Llorona is basically this land here, for example, crying about the desolation of our children. That's what it is. That's why when you read Sirach, I wrote it down, thank God. La Llorona story. Zion is a woman, and her children are the children of Israel. She is the weeping woman. Which weeping woman? In 2nd Ezra. 2nd Ezra 10:41. I'm just going to do two verses. Watch this. Thou sawest the woman mourning, and thou beginnest to comfort her, right? Because this was Ezra seeing a woman. But if you read the chapter, you'll see that this woman was crying over her child. And she's like, woman, why are you complaining over one child? Don't you know Israel lost so many? And she's like, no, but I want to complain, whatever. And then all of a sudden she disappears. So then their interpretation is given to him. So now the angel comes to Ezra and says, thou sawest the woman mourning, and thou beginnest to comfort her, because he did. Verse 44, to the point. This woman whom thou sawest is Zion, and whereas she said unto thee, even she whom thou seest is a city builded. So this woman, this weeping woman, is dying for her children, which is the same story that we know of here. That the Aztecs, the Mexicas or MESHIACHAs, that Llorona was crying for those children that died at the hand of the Spaniards, of the Euros. Exactly. Check this. Isaiah 49:20. We're almost done. Yeah, almost. I'm going 20 hours. The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the others shall say again in their ears, the place is too straight for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. Watch this. Here's the point. Verse 21. Then shalt thou say in thy heart, who had begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children, and I am desolate and a captive, and removing to and fro. And who had brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These were, had they been. Right? So you're asking. So check this out. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. This is a prophecy. Future prophecy, fam. Okay? Which is why these heathens, they don't deserve our book, because they're using this next verse to put their foot in someone else that had part of the slave trade. So when you see a so-called African American putting his foot on a so-called white man, you got to wonder who was really the slaver initially. There's a big rabbit hole coming through. Isaiah 49:23. And kings shall be nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face towards the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Because this is a heavy topic to think of, because when it really hits you, family, like the attack is really on us. Like it has been since the get-go, fam. And we were just like asleep, like zombies, not even understanding. And then the Most High said, time to wake up. Isaiah 51:22. I'm almost done. Thus say the Lord, thus say thy Lord, the Lord. I'm sorry. Is it right? Thus say the Lord, and thy God that pleaded the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out thine hand the cup of trembling. He's talking to us, family. Even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. And this is why the understanding is growing. This is why when we learn in these classes, I'm not saying, oh, it's all them and we need reparations because of that. And no, listen, in case you guys are new, why are you blaming them? I'll give you an example. I don't do it, but when I used to with my son, I guess. What does it make sense for him to get mad at the belt or get mad at me? What does the belt have to do with anything? I whooped his butt because he was bad kid. So it would be dumb for him to be mad at the belt. So why are these guys blaming them? Oh, it was your fault. It's you enslaved. No, dummies. It was your fault. All right, hold on. Let me do this real quick. I'll wait a little bit, maybe another minute or so, and then I'm going to start. I don't know who's there. I'll wait a little bit, maybe another. So, and then I'm going to start. I don't know who's there. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's see. All right, so nobody's still here. Well, I'm going to start anyways, man, so you guys can actually watch it. All right. All right, so here we go. The class, first of all, shalom, family. Lord willing, y'all are doing well, okay? I know that I've been kind of getting on board and then, doing a lot of classes recently. It's been upon my spirit. This one in particular, I want to touch on Arsarith and then the second Esdras, chapter 13, verse 40 and through 45, okay? So let's get to it. The topic is Arsarith. Okay, so now I'm gonna read the scripture. I'm gonna go all the way through 45, and then I'm gonna play a video of some just random individual. Okay, and this is what they had to say about what this means, and this is why that One West doctrine was so confusing and putting our people in that particular type of state of confusion because they were just man, like it made no sense. All right, so let me go ahead and read this verse, and then we'll go from there. All right, Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40, it says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they passed over. For through that country was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years, and the same region is called Arsarith. Okay, so the same region is called Arsarith. Now, I'm going to put a video on right now, so you guys can see what some of I don't know what you call them, I guess non-believers maybe. Okay, watch this. Oh, that's right, I need to read the disclaimer. All right, here's the disclaimer. Oh, hold on, let me pause it. Here's the disclaimer, okay? It's in Spanish. Here's the English one. Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. It says here, the content, copyright disclaimer, this content does not belong to Bible Chronicles, nor does Bible Chronicles claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles does not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material in use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes. And thus, Bible Chronicles believes that this principle of material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law. Okay? All right, so then now I read that. So check this out. Look what this guy has to say. I'm going to let it play, all right? And then it's only 4 minutes, so let's hear it out.
Shalom, coming back with another video. I just want to touch on these subjects that the Israelites like to go over to try to prove Native Americans and Hispanics, our people. I'm going to the scriptures where they go to. 2nd Israel 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Salmonelsa the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came into a lot of land. So they try to prove this and make it seem like they came to America, which they didn't. They still in Africa. These people don't read, man. I mean, it's just simple and plain, man. If people don't get this stuff, man, the Most High just ain't showing you. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would lead the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a far country where never mankind dwelt, which is still in Africa. Y'all know how big it is in Africa. There's a lot of places that ain't nobody been to in Africa yet, man. There's a lot of places still over there ain't never mankind dwelt over there. That's how big the land is. That they may keep their statues, but they never kept in their own land. And they enter into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and hell stood the flood till they were passed over. And this part right here is finna kill them. Watch this. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Azareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter times. Until the latter times now. Peep that, until the latter times. The Most High hell stood the flood for them. Until the latter times. And now when they shall begin to come, that the highest, it's talking about the Most High, that the highest shall stay springs of the stream again. That means he gonna hell flood, he gonna hold the water again like he did. We'll see what spring is. We don't want to miss nothing. I mean, it's just so easy, man. The Most High just gotta show you. Mean leap, fly back, or move. Springs mean move. He gonna move the water again. That's what it means. A small narrow river. He gonna move the small narrow river again that they may go through. So by the Israelites' logic, that means the Native Americans and the Hispanics got to get back on the boat and go back to Africa. By their logic, if Native Americans and Hispanic Israelites, that means they got to get back on the boat and go back. Because verse 47 say the highest is talking about the Most High shall stay the springs. That mean hold back. The springs mean hold back, or the stream mean water, a narrow river. Again, that mean he gonna do it again. That they may go through. Therefore, size thou the multitude with peace. So I don't know what they get out of this. What do it say that they came to America? Verse 47 says the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again. That means he gonna hold for the water again. That they may go through. That they gonna go through. That's in Africa. Man, I don't know how these people miss over this, man. What verse in this said came to the to America? Verse 47, it debunked all that, man. Verse 47, they go through 40 through 45 or something like that, or 46, but they won't try to read. They don't want try to read verse 47. When they say the highest shall stay springs of the stream again, they don't want try to read that. That means he gonna do it again. So that means if Native American Israelite, Hispanic Israelite, them goddamn mixed Spaniards Israelites, that means they gotta get back on the boat and go all the way back to Africa. Because the Most High said he gonna bring them through there again. Shalom, I'm out, man. I just wanted to put that out there. That people they just jump right over 47. Like the Most High said he ain't gonna bring them through the water again. That same water they the northern tribe ran through the first time, he gonna bring them back again the second time. You're just saying the same thing, man. Shalom.
Okay, so you guys heard him. Oh shoot, my bad. You guys heard him, okay? And because of One West, that's pretty much where we stand, right? Just based on that, maybe he makes sense, maybe not, right? I don't know how some people feel about it, but let's start it. Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29, and it reads, "The secret things belong unto the Lord our God." It said our God. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we as a people may do all the words of this law. So regarding the secrets and doing all the words of the law is also teaching the history of who we are, where we came from, how we migrated, all of that. Okay? Psalms 25. Psalms 25, chapter 14, it reads, "The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant." So what's one of them? What's one of the covenants? Deuteronomy 4:13. Watch what it reads. It says, "And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even the 10 commandments, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stones," meaning there was more than 10 commandments, right? It wasn't just 10. Those were the main, like the predominant ones, in a sense, for lack of better words. So it says, "And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform." Right? So what is requiring of us to perform the covenant? Obviously, applying the laws, statutes, and commandments, but we're also supposed to teach our children these things, right? So what do we teach them? Job 8:8. And it reads, for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age." So we're supposed to teach our children the laws, but we're also supposed to teach them about the Bible and the history of it and our forefathers and what they achieved, their failures and their achievements. "And prepare thyself to search of their fathers." Okay? So, and then that's actually told several times throughout the scriptures. Deuteronomy 32:17. Watch what it reads. "They sacrifice unto 32:7. It reads, "Remember the days of old. Consider the years of my many generations." Remember that, okay? "Ask thy fathers, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." Well, if we keep doing that, that means we were already keeping the laws. So as of right now, we need to go back into our forefathers and find out more about them. What exactly is this mean, right? Especially this topic of like just the second Esdras, right? So now let's go to Amos. I'm going quick because I want to make sure I do this class quick, okay? Because I was earlier online. Amos 7:11, and it reads, "For thus Amos saith, Jeroboam shall die by the sword." Wait, is this what I'm looking for? Oh yeah. "For thus Amos saith, Jeroboam shall die by the sword, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of their own land." Okay, so now we see in Amos that prophesying in regards to, or that we were going to be taken out of our own land, meaning the 12 tribes, right? So now here's where we start seeing what happened. So let me kind of run it by real quick, so at least we can get to the point of Arsareth, because this topic is pretty standard and pretty simple. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some maps, and then you guys pretty much discern it and study it yourselves as well. Here's where it starts. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5. It reads, "Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and began and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Syria and placed them in Halah and in the harbor by the river of Gazan in the cities of the Medes." Okay. Now that's over there by like Persia Medes, like further in. So let's check it out. Look, the city of the Medes, right? City of Medes. City of Medes. So Location. City of Medes. Let's see. Where's the city of Medes? Empire. Oh, yellow. All of this, I'm sorry, I didn't even see it. So all of this is yellow, the Medes. Okay. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up into Samaria and besieged it 3 years. And in the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah. Okay, well, we don't see Halah here. Let's see what we can. Where is Halah in the Bible? So we see that. Oh, that's not going to help. Well, maybe here. Bible Atlas. Halah. Okay, so you see where Halah is, guys? Right there, okay? So they took us right around that area. All right. All right. So let me put this down real quick. We may need it later. Okay, so let me read it again. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel into Assyria, placed them in Halah and in the harbor. Okay, we saw that, right? Watch this. It says Halah in the harbor, right? See? Halah in the harbor, map area. Okay, harbor river. So around this area here. Okay. All right. So now let's go to 2nd Chronicles 6:36. And then verse 22, and it reads, Now in the 1st year of Cyrus, king of Persia, this is after the Assyrians. The Persians then took over and conquered the Assyrians, or, beat them, right? That the word of the Lord spoke by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing and saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth had the Lord God of heaven given me, and he had charged me to build him a house, Jerusalem, which is in Judah, who is there among you of all people. The Lord, that his God be with him, let him go up. Now remember, keep in mind that Cyrus was a Zoroastrian. So why would the Most High stir up his spirit? And why would he believe it? That's a hell of a question. I mean, honestly, right? What does that mean? Let me give you guys something real quick. I have a book called let's see, what is it? Eclipsis, Volume 1. Okay. And I'm gonna show y'all something. You guys can actually read it. This book here. If you look at versions, watch. Hopefully it doesn't log me out because it's gonna ask me to log on, and honestly, I don't want to have to log on. All right. So anyhow, in this book, you guys can read it. Okay. It shows and shares that Cyrus was a relative of Abraham. So let me see if I can get the book. Hold on. I'm gonna show y'all something. Give me a second real quick. Real quick here. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm going to .org. Maybe I could get it here. Okay, here we go. Yep, there it goes right here. Okay, so let me go and do this one. All right, watch this. Persians. It's going to say it a lot. Now, I'm not trying to segue from the topic. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that there was a lot going on in that time, and a lot of the, I guess you could say, a lot of the migrations, tribes, they were pretty much, somewhat relatives. Now, you also had obviously Ishmael and Elam in that area, but watch this. Persian lizards are described. Let me see here. Let's see right here. No, this isn't it. Let's see. Here, I'll do this. Let me do it this way. Hey, bro. See, all of this mattered, guys. That's what I'm showing y'all. All of this mattered. Obviously, the Most High. There's a reason. Nobody was able to ever answer me. Why did God go give Cyrus, put it in his spirit? Like, why? If he wasn't an Israelite, okay? But no one was able to answer me that question. So obviously, I had to, answer my questions, because there was really nobody available to answer them, and even if there was, they weren't able to. And this is what I found. Excuse me. Let's see. I think this one. This is a great book, by the way. You guys should consider reading it. Earliest story was Abraham, Sarah. Let me see. Maybe it's here. Abraham, Moses. Peruvians believe in one supreme being. This is basically talking about how the similarities. Yeah, and I touched on it on another class. But I'm trying to show you guys something here. Where are you? Where are you? Okay, no, that's not it. Oh, here goes. All right, here goes. We know that the religion of the Magi did become corrupted, and it was reformed before the time of Cyrus and Daniel by a man called Zoroaster or Abraham Zoroaster. Okay, so now what these guys are saying is that the Persians, look, there seems no doubt that this king and priest was the religion of the Persians, of Brahma, of Mithra, and of Abram, as professed at this time. Okay, now it says here, let me see this one. Where are you? Still calling Ishka. Ishka was the name of both Sarah and his wife. Jesus. No. Anyways, look, guys, honestly, if you guys can really look through this book, and it's going to show you, it's going to say that these guys, the Persians, they know that they come from Abraham. Okay. So I'm trying to look for the page, and it's going to be a while because honestly, it's a lot of pages. And I wasn't thinking of showing this. Let's see, maybe here. Okay, maybe not here. Let's try this one. This last one. If not, I'm gonna move on. The whole of the Jews were circumcised because they were said to have been a priestly nation, and if the history of Abraham can be believed, the Jews, probably so called, were all descendants of the Chaldean Brahmin, and of 318 persons said to be bred in his own house. That's weird. And who probably constituted of the whole tribe or high caste tribe who had come with him from India. I mean, look through the book, guys, honestly, and you're gonna find out that the Persians know that they come from them. Okay, so now we got at least one answer in regards to why in the world did God choose Cyrus to free the Israelites. Okay, well, it was all prophetic, obviously. So now let's go to verse 23. I think I read it. I'll read it again. Thus say, yeah, I did. No, let me read it. Thus say Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth had the Lord God of heaven given me. See that? And he had charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people
the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up. Now, when would the Most High allow some heathen to do that? Well, we now know that they were relatives of Abraham. Okay. So now, since we are now so-called free to go, okay, let me go to First Ezra just to show you and confirm. It says here, now is the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus said Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven had given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he had charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Okay? So now it says, who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build house of the Lord. Go out to the Lord of Israel. He is the God. Wow. Which is in Jerusalem. Remember, this guy was a Zoroastrian, right? And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourned, let the men of his place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts, besides the free will offerings for the house of the God that is in Jerusalem. Okay? So now we see that Cyrus allowed them to go. Something moved Cyrus' spirit, but it seems like Cyrus was related to Abraham. Okay? So now let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Okay, verse 40. And it reads, those are the 10 tribes who were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Okay, so now let me show you a map real quick. Show you the map. Where is it? The world. I think it's this one. Okay.
Shalom,
That's not
coming
it.
back.
What am I talking about? Let's see, like that. Oh, I know why that happened. Okay, cool. So as you can see, it says here, I'm going to put it to the side. It says, verse 41, verse 40, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Okay? Now, let's stop right there, because it says, but they took his counsel. So he took them into another land where? We found out when. We found out where. He took them somewhere around there, right? This is an old map, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to use this map too. Oh, please don't tell me you're going to freeze on me. Okay, cool. Sorry, guys. It's a little tricky map. I got to move very slow. Okay. So he took them there. Okay. Right there. And he carried them over the waters, meaning this here. Okay. And so they came into another land. Okay. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. It's a little difficult. I just want to make sure that we get the good view. All right. So now they're over here. They're right here. Okay. Try to, how do I flip it up? Okay. It's a little difficult, man, but I'm trying to figure it out. All right. So they're right there. And here's the Euphrates. Okay. Now it says, but they took this counsel among themselves when? After Cyrus had given the decree to free the Israelites, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen. Where? Right there. The multitude here, wherever they were. Because, I mean, keep in mind, he might have taken them here, but that doesn't mean he kept them there. They're slaves. He could take them anywhere else. Plus, if you guys remember, you have this area in a map which had Joktan right here. That was called Joktan. If you guys don't remember, there's a map that I have
And for the sake of time, I don't want to look for it because I have this in my mind here to make sure that we get through it. Okay, but it basically says that Peleg and Joktan, all of that. Okay, but they took his counsel among themselves after Cyrus had freed them. All right, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So now they're right here. Okay, Persia was ruling. Here, I'll show you guys. Persia. Empire. Look, Persia literally covered all of this. Okay, and the 12 tribes are well, the 10 tribes are right there. You see what I'm saying? They were right here. All right. So let's go back now. It says, but they took his counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude. Which multitude? This multitude, wherever it would have been here. Remember, it's all under Cyrus's territory. Okay. Now the Assyrians. I'll show you the Assyrian. Well, I think at time it won't. But the Assyrians were less. Okay, you guys can look it up. The Assyrians were conquered like up until this point. So when Cyrus took over, he said, "Hey, where you guys are at, you guys can stay there. You guys can go wherever you want." So obviously, they're saying, "Well, you know what? They took their counsel among themselves. That doesn't overnight. That took years. It had to take years because the Bible is like that. You know, one verse can go to another verse, and all of a sudden, it's like a couple, like 100 years maybe at times, or maybe more. So, you know, you got to be mindful that what were they sojourning? They took but they took this counsel among themselves. That means they had time to think about what they wanted to do. So, if they were already free, they obviously weren't just staying here. They were maybe migrating somewhere around in this area of the Persian power, because this is where it gets really sick and sickening and ignorant, is when they say, the one west says, "Oh yeah, they took the Euphrates and went through Africa all the way around, like all the way this way." You're telling me that they would? Why would you do that? Why would you go all the way around? Euphrates River goes this way, and then you're gonna go around that way on boats? Come on, man. It makes no sense. But what does make sense is this right here. Hold on. Let me get a different map because this is really. Hold on, guys. Let me see. Where you at? Let me try this map. Maybe this map will work a little bit. And check out the website. Oh no, that's not the map. I'm gonna show you that one in a little bit. Let's see this one. No, I'm gonna show you that one a little bit too. Well, let me just get that one because honestly, it's not a waste. I'm gonna waste time looking for another example. I'll do my best to control it. Okay. So anyhow, it just doesn't make sense, and I don't see how there could be massive amount of boats that would be able to just do that. Okay. So why would we go that route? It makes no sense. All right. Now let's continue. It says here that okay. So it says, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Another thing, mankind was already dwelling in Africa. And this kid that was saying, "Oh, well, you know, Africa's so big." No, come on, man. There's maps that show. And look, remember the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Cushites. What do you think they were? So, plus, on top of the fact that if they're free to go in the Persian Empire, why would they go to another empire so then they can be enslaved? No, that would make no sense. So the only way that this would make more sense would be a further country where never mankind dwelt. Well, at that time, there wasn't really not many people traveling through these areas. I mean, there were some kingdoms, but not many. And then from proof of the fact that we see a lot of like similar customs, similar names in Mexico and South America, where the people in India, like the Raramuri. Oh, here, I'll show you guys in case you guys haven't seen it. This is a trip. Now, I'm not saying
all I'm saying is we traveled through there. So it makes sense that we would have gone that way. Watch this. Muri of Chi Gu Chiu Wa Wa sorry, Chiu Wa. I think that's how you spell it. Oh, my bad. I was off. All right. So look, watch this. These are images, right? You can see this here. Look at this. I don't know what was that. Watch right here. Okay, I get. Oh, here it goes. See, this is the Raramuri of Chihuahua. Well, watch this. The Ram Uri of Shivava. Look at that. Boom. The Raramuri of Chihuahua, the Ram Uri of Shivava. Now, again, what this means is that we had to have traveled to those areas. Plus, remember, it says Joktan in the other map. Let me see if I can get it. Hold up. Map. Joktan, here it goes. Okay, this is more of a newer map. And you see it says here Joktan, Jokton, like Yucatan, Arfashad, Persia, Elam. You see? This was their kingdom. All of this was their kingdom. Okay? So the 10 tribes have more likely gone this way for security purposes because of the Persian Empire who understood that they were free. Okay? So obviously, as we were walking through, a good chance that we would have picked up some customs. Then it says here that they may that let's see, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statues which they never kept in their own land. Okay, meaning in Jerusalem, because we're falling off. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place, right? This place here. Narrow place of the river. For the Most High then showed them signs and still heal the waters. All right, so now this is where it gets tricky. Okay, so they go here. Oops. All right, here goes. I'm getting a little better. So they go here. So they pass the Euphrates River, and then God shows them signs, and they say to a further country where never mankind dwelt. So watch this, guys. If you go further into this map, you pass India, you pass China, and then you deal with like an area called Tartary. These guys came later, by the way. But then you see this, Arsareth. Okay. Then you see Arsareth right here. All right. The same thing you see here. Now watch what this one says. Arsareth. 4 Esdras capítulo 13. Isio tribuil se fore Totarorum. Yeah, it's Italian. Tartoro, Scaith. It's just mentioning like places, people that Scythians right here, Tartary or Tartar, the Syria, the area. Look, Tartary, right? Remember, this is a later book, later map, not that in the times of, because we left. First of all, Assyria conquered us in about 700 BC. We left then about 535, 538 BC, give or take. So this is way later. And but here we understand that it's called Arsareth. Now I don't know what it would be called at that time, right? But that's the understanding of it. Now, when we look at this, this makes more sense because as we keep reading further, watch what happens. For the Most High then showed them signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So are we talking about the Strait of the Anian, or the Bering Strait. Now, we were told that, oh, yeah, it's because, the ice melted or the ice froze. But, when we left Exodus, he also opened this. Namely, a year and a half, and the same region was called Arsaris, same region. So what's the region? Okay, so watch this. I'm going to get my Webster's Dictionary 1828 book. Watch what it says. Region. Region means a tract of land or space of indefinite extent, usually a tract or considerable extent. It is sometimes nearly synonymous with country, sometimes with country. It says the inhabitants of a region or district, right? A part of the body. So it says here, for through that country was a great way to war. I'm sorry, for the Most High then showed them signs for them, and still held the flood till they were passed over. For through that country was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, and the same region, meaning the same section, right, is called Arsarith. So if the entrance of Arsarith is here, and he held the floods for us, then it would only make sense that he would hold the flood for us there. It's about a 50-mile walk. I mean, excuse me. Not a 50-mile walk, but it's 50 miles. Okay? Now watch what this says. This is another map. More colorful. Look. It's the same one. 4 Esdras, capítulo 13. Tribus Sephirah, I guess. Oh, Zephyrat, or I don't know what it says. Something like that. Totaroru. I don't know what. But look. Strito di Anian. So again, for through that country was a great way to go. Which way? All the way this way. All the way this way. So now he holds the water for us. For through the Most High showed him signs and held still the waters, right? So here he held the waters out. When we were walking, he's showing us the signs. And then it goes, for through that country was a great way to go. Namely, a year and a half in the same region is called Arsarith, because there's a great space to walk through. Right? If Arsarith is here, give me a second. Arsarith is right here. Here's the entrance of Arsarith. So it would make sense, so close, why the Most High would hold still the waters, and why it was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, because you consider the length from here to here, and then all the travel to America, all the way down to where we started migrating, mostly here. Okay, and here's why. Verse 46. Then dwelt they there until the latter times, and now when they shall begin to come. Whoa, let me read it again. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. Watch this. Okay. The highest shall stay the springs, meaning hold the waters of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude of peace. So the only way that this scripture makes sense for us is, first of all, you got to understand Arsarith is here. So we could not have gone first. And okay, so Arsarith is here. All right. He held the waters, and then he held the waters again. Now, are we going to go back into our land in this way? I can't call that right now. As far as I know, the Messiah is going to return. Right? That's something that I can dig into. But as far as my understanding from what we're sharing here right now, that we didn't take no boats around Africa. Okay? That's stupid, because that takes forever to go around. Plus, that region, right? This was conquered by other countries, other people. They would have enslaved our people. Our people aren't dumb. We would have at least made sure not to go that way. If anything, we go this way. Because why? Because no one ever dwelt in these lands. And if they did, very minimal. Plus, we would have protection all the way up to this point. And then we go up here. That is not that far. Now, the great way to go, that's pretty far. So when the Most High holds the waters, that rock right there, if you're going to walk from the top of America, from Alaska, all the way down to South America, that's about a year and a half. Okay? And then on 47 it says, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. And you know that it's not you. I mean, this is not a stream, but it's a river. It's pretty big. It's part of a sea. Okay. So now let me go to Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 17. So we can get an idea as to if it's prophetic that we were going to come here in the first place. It is. Look, watch. It says, his glory is like the firstlings of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of the unicorn. This is the tribe of Ephraim, okay? With them he shall push the people together to the end of the earth. And they are the 10,000 of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. And Zebulun, he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. And it shall call the people unto the mountains. There they shall, okay, watch this. And Zebulun, he shall rejoice. Zebulun in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tent. Okay? And they shall call the people unto the mountain. Now, I was shown, I'll show you with you guys, that Zebulun was the Mayas, and Issachar the Aztecs. And the Issachar was when they sacrificed, they would blow the horn, and Zebulun would come and sacrifice with the Aztecs, or the Mayas with the Aztecs. That's how I was told, okay? As of right now, all I'm showing you is that the 10 tribes were going to be pushed to the end of the earth, okay? Now, Deuteronomy 6 and 8, watch what it reads. Deuteronomy 6 and 8, and it says, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand. And no, that's not it. Revelation. What am I talking about? My God. Sorry, guys. Revelations 6:8. It says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the 4 parts of the earth, the 4th part of the earth, to kill with a sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Okay. Now, why am I bringing this up? Watch this. This is from a book called Geography Rectified. Give me a second. Watch what he reads right here. Here goes. America is the 4th part. Watch this. According to the greater integrating parts thereof, the ancient divided the whole earth into 3 great parts: Europe, Africa, Asia, and Africa, to which now added a 4th, America. Again, a 4th or 4th part, like Revelation. It says, I'm just going to get to the point. And it was given power, and it was given unto them. Oh, I'm sorry. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth to kill with swords, and with hunger, and with death. Did they not come from the end of the earth and kill us with the sword? Did they not take away our resources, and now we're being in hunger? Are people dying at the border? Are people dying here too? Our people are poor. So-called illegal immigrants, they can barely make it. They're not getting paid that well. A lot of people pay them less because they know they're not quote legal. And with the beast of the earth, what is that? You know which one? Started 2 or 3 years ago. Are they not? Is this not happening here in this continent? Look, watch. This is from a system geography, a dissertation of creation and various phenomena. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you guys. Tartar or Tartary, right? Tartar. Muscovite, 3 million square miles. But this is a weird part. In Europe, there's 2.7 square miles. Africa 10. I'm sorry, Asia 10, Africa 8, America 9. So how could these guys have 3 million plus 604,000 and about almost 800,000? Almost what? More than 4 million in square mileage. So that means what? What we were looking at earlier. These guys ran all of this here. Tartary. Tarsia, Tart. You see Tartary, I think it's in the other map. Yeah, Tartaria, right? And if this is an entrance, the 12 tribes, look, they're still naming them. America, right? Pars, Nova Ars Pars. I got to look up what that word means. But as you can see, look. See that, guys? So the 10 tribes God held the waters. They crossed over in a year and a half. So it wasn't no necessarily ice like on the floor. It was the Most High. And I know that people won't be able to wrap their minds around it. Look, watch. This is what they say because apparently we came from that region. As for the original of these people, right? It is most probable that they did descend from the Tartars. If so be that the west side of America be continent with Asia, or disjoined by a very small strait, as this described in some maps. I just showed you where Russia was, right? But now Spanish and all of that stuff. It says here, watch this. But their numbers are much wasted since the Spaniards' discovery. For some authors affirm that they put to death about 15 million of the natives in less than 15 years, and that the blood of those that perished in the mines where they were forced to labor weighed more than all the gold and silver drawn from hence. Wow. All of our gente died, and they weighed more than all the gold that these bastards got from us. Anyhow, it's a short class, guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to go too deep on this. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let me give you guys one more. Baruch, chapter 3 and verse 7. Why all this then? And for this cause thou hast put fear in thy heart to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity, for we have called to mind all the iniquity of our forefathers that sinned before thee. So this is why all of this is happening. Our job as brethren is to find out and give y'all more answers that can give us a much more clarity. Because for some time we were told that this is who we were, that we were Africans and that we came here. Well, One West needs to teach that in order for us to be the woolly team. But the simple fact is that they're not Israel. We already proven that left and right. I'll give you one example, okay? Look, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 28. I'm going to show y'all real quick. This is off the topic, but I just want to prove a point. 28, verse 49, and it reads, the Lord shall bring a nation against you from far. Watch this. From far. From the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. Okay? So, if you guys ruled Europe, you're not far. Okay? From the end of the earth, you're not at the end of the earth. You're right next door. That literally is it's a 2-hour boat ride from here, from this point here to this point there. Okay? Literally. The Lord shall bring a nation against you from far. That's not far. From the end of the earth. That's not the end of the earth. As swift as the eagle flieth. Well, you guys had the eagle. In Granada, you guys had, look at where Granada is. Almost by Africa. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. You guys spoke Spanish, French, Portuguese, Dutch, German, English. What else? Prussian, Russian. How in the world could verse 38:49 even apply? And then you say, well, it was in 70 AD. Well, that even makes no sense because it can't be another nation from far from the end of the earth that swift as the eagle flieth. Maybe the eagle part, but they can't because Rome conquered and he was in charge of Jerusalem, and they knew who they were because even Paul spoke Latin and Greek, and it says a tongue that thou shalt not understand. So however you slice it, One West, you're done. All right, that whole 12 tribe. That 10 tribe that came through Africa, that's a lie. And the only reason y'all did it is just so you could say that we look black. And that's the saddest thing in the world anybody could do. And you know what? Hey, man, the Most High has recorded everything that y'all have been saying and teaching our people wrong and correctly. Quite frankly, this makes more sense. Why? Because why would we go that other route? Why would we go that other route? It makes no sense. And then you would need tons of votes in order to do that. Okay? So, anyways, with all that considered, guys, it's like I said, it's a short class, man. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to go all crazy with this, but other than that, let me play a song for you guys real quick, and then we will call it a night. Give me a second. Let me find one. I hope it was edifying for everybody. I know I went pretty quick on this, guys, but you know, quite frankly, this is not a topic that really needs a lot of attention. You know what I'm saying? It really does not need a lot of attention because give me a second. Because well, it's very simple, black and white. You know, there's not really that much parables in this scripture. It's like, okay, it's very simple. 10 tribes left, fine. Persia was in charge. We were secured by that territory. Why would we leave it? The closest place to go is up there, up north, up to where Russia is at the tip. And then we see that it's Arsarith. It's considered Arsarith. So if he opened the floods for us, then that means we would have crossed over to the Americas. And that trip takes about 1.5 years because we got people in Chile. All right. So anyhow, Lord willing, man, this was edifying. I hope it made sense for y'all. I'm going to play this guy real quick, and I'll let y'all go, okay? Shalom, family. Hope y'all doing well, and stay in the spirit. Battle, man. Battle as much as you can. Try to find family, friends that are in the truth that will at least help you with the phone calls if you guys need someone to talk to. Listen, man, I'm reachable if y'all want, but again, y'all don't know me, so I don't know how comfortable people are. I'm trying to build. We're trying to build a nation of our people again, so we don't have to live in this destruction. Anyhow, shalom, man. Love you, family. All right, take care. This is what I got for y'all.
Respect. Yeah, man. Respect and love from the world, nigga. Show them. You nigga on a microphone. Can't I sit the number 15? Rock you in the studio. Bomba, claro. ¿De qué manera sufre el alma cuando alguien se va? No hay medicina que cure esa larga enfermedad. La vitamina de la vida en esta sociedad es tan divina que por nombre tiene libertad. Libérate de la mentira que está por llegar. Mide tu orgullo antes de empezar a hablar. Cierra la puerta a quien no merezca entrar, porque hay mucho que se fue y sueña con regresar. Hablemos en silencio y así no me mentirás. El poder de la palabra muere cuando hablan de más. No me fío de oraciones que se dicen por detrás. Si me miras a los ojos no te mentiré jamás. Que besar por besar es jugar por jugar. Y vivir sin amores, vivir sin amar. Solo queda la fe, solo queda soñar. Ponte de pie, ready para luchar. Some love, I can just smoke and there are some love them. I can just smoke and there are some love. I remember no fire, no girl. Ribby day. Call it with a mama soul, yeah. Tell them around. ¿De cuánto tiempo hablamos cuando hablamos de querer? Si la mitad lo malgastamos solo en comprender. ¿De qué manera es más fácil aprender? Que nacemos para ganar y morimos al perder. No puedo dejar de animarte, que cuando te caigas debes levantarte. Llegué para contarte que no todo artista muere por su arte. Traigo el honor de un humano con valor que utiliza poesía para respirar mejor. Escribo prosa para vengar al amor y recuerda aquella rosa que tiraron al contenedor. ¿Dónde se quedó el amor? Hey, I no voy a sitio on no microphone forever and ever. Tell me, roll some love. I can just smoke and the light some love them. I Rastafari my life some love. I remember no fire no burn. Ribby day. I live with a mama soul, yeah. Reggae man a mama warrior day. Not a really thing. Oh, yeah, man. Si se piensa que la música es un juego, lo lleva claro, hermano. de España, international, bombo clack you, baby nego. Yeah, not really easy. No. You nigga on a microphone. Hey, tell us any trick. Tell if I'm a rasta, feeling on my sin. Hey, more love.
Ethnic and racial prejudice is a common occurrence in history, brought upon by power dynamics that emerge between different peoples. While not a natural human impulse, the development of ethnic and racial stereotypes often occurred due to political circumstances. Just like in our modern world, the ancient world certainly had its own views on ethnicity and race, which were at times very familiar to us and at times completely alien to the modern eye. In this series, we will discuss the conception of ethnicity and race in various ancient societies, such as Greece, Rome, and Egypt. We will do this by looking at art and texts from those societies and contextualizing historical events from their respective eras. In this first video, we will transport you to the ancient polis of Hellas and explore perceptions of race, identity, ethnicity, and racism in the world of ancient Greece. This video is sponsored by our YouTube members and patrons, who get 2 exclusive videos weekly, not available anywhere else, for their kind support of our channel. You can join their ranks to watch more than 160 videos, including our series on the Pacific War, Punic Wars, Persian Wars, Spanish War of Succession, Russo-Japanese War, North African Campaign of World War II, History of Prussia, Italian Unification Wars, Risorgimento, Albigensian Crusades, and much more. Click the link in the description or pinned comment to get the exclusive videos, early access to all public videos, our schedule, wallpapers, access to a special Discord server where we're very active, and much more. Thanks for supporting us, we couldn't be doing it without your help. The ancient world did not have racism as we perceive it today, as modern racism is built upon the advent of capitalism and European colonialism, and finding excuses to justify its brutality. However, ancient Greece did have societal prejudices, and there is some debate amongst scholars as to whether this part of Greek thought constituted racism, defined as prejudice based on biological racial features, or ethnic prejudice, defined as prejudice based on cultural traits. Some modern scholars believe that ancient Greek prejudices against the various peoples of the ancient Near East were non-hereditary, based not on race but on language and culture. Moreover, these modern scholars assert that racism as we know it today has its origins in the African slave trade of the European colonial era millennia later. When trying to understand the concept of identity in antiquity, it should be noted that our window into the ancient world's attitude towards race and ethnicity survives to us through written records and artwork that only the elite would have been able to afford, and therefore reflect the attitudes of the social elite and not the common people. Indeed, the average person likely did not share the beliefs of the elites, though prejudices definitely pervaded into commoner populations, much like today. With all this in mind, we will tackle the past's complexities as holistically as possible. Authors in antiquity held a variety of views of ethnicity and race, wildly diverging in space and time. However, one consistent trope that does emerge from ancient writing is a form of environmental determinism, or the notion that the climate sets up people's traits and behavior into stereotypes others. For instance, in the Archaic period, Hesiod's Theogony discusses monstrous races of people living on the corners of the known world, a pattern.
La muerte que hoy nos separa, mañana volverá a unirnos. Eres libre, hijo.